Golden moment, Rihanna and her baby melting hearts worldwide. The moment the world stood still. There are moments that don't announce themselves with fireworks or headlines, but when they happen, the world somehow feels it. A collective pause. A shared breath. A quiet recognition that something deeply human has unfolded in front of our eyes. One such moment arrived softly, wrapped not in spectacle but in tenderness. Rihanna, global superstar, cultural icon, and once-in-a-generation artist, holding her baby. No stage lights. No choreography. No microphones. Just a mother and her child. And yet, the impact rippled across the globe. In an era saturated with noise, endless scrolling, breaking news, and carefully curated perfection, this single image, this golden moment, cut through everything. It reminded us of something ancient and universal: love, in its purest form, needs no translation. People didn't just see Rihanna with her baby. They felt it. And once you feel something like that, it's impossible to look away. Rihanna, more than a superstar. To understand why this moment mattered so much, you have to understand who Rihanna is, not just as an artist, but as a symbol. For nearly 2 decades, Rihanna has existed at the intersection of music, fashion, beauty, and cultural influence. She's been fearless where others played it safe. She's redefined success on her own terms, walking away from expectations and carving out new spaces where women, especially women of color, could see themselves reflected with power and autonomy. From chart-topping anthems that soundtracked millions of lives to redefining beauty standards through her brands, Rihanna has always represented more than fame. She represents freedom. Freedom to evolve. Freedom to be imperfect. Freedom to grow beyond who the world expects you to be. So when she stepped into motherhood, the world didn't just witness a personal milestone. It witnessed a new chapter in a story that has always been about transformation. The quiet power of motherhood. Motherhood has a way of stripping away everything unnecessary. Titles fade. Accolades soften. The world narrows into something intimate and profound. For Rihanna, motherhood didn't arrive as a reinvention, it arrived as a revelation. In photos and fleeting moments shared with the public, something unmistakable emerged: a calm strength, a grounded joy, a softness that coexisted beautifully with her trademark confidence. She wasn't trying to perform motherhood. She was living it. And that authenticity is what made people lean in. In her presence with her baby, there was no pressure to be flawless. No attempt to romanticize exhaustion or hide vulnerability. Instead, there was something refreshingly real: a woman fully present, fully human, fully in love. Why this moment resonated worldwide. Across cultures, languages, and continents, people responded to this moment with overwhelming emotion. Social media flooded with comments not about fashion or fame, but about warmth, healing, and connection. Why? Because motherhood, at its core, is one of the few experiences that unites humanity. Everyone comes from a mother. Everyone understands the instinct to protect, nurture, and love. When Rihanna held her baby, she became a mirror. People saw their own mothers. Their own children. Their own longing, joy, or grief reflected back at them. In a world that often feels divided, this moment quietly reminded us of what we all share. A new definition of strength. Rihanna has always embodied strength, but motherhood revealed a different dimension of it. This wasn't the strength of commanding a stage or dominating an industry. It was the strength of patience. Of presence. Of surrendering control. The strength to wake up every day knowing someone depends entirely on you. The strength to love without conditions. The strength to be vulnerable in a world that often punishes softness. And perhaps most importantly, it was the strength to live publicly while protecting something deeply private. Breaking the mold of celebrity motherhood. Celebrity motherhood is often presented through extremes, either overly glamorized or relentlessly scrutinized. Rihanna refused both. She didn't rush to narrate every detail. She didn't turn her baby into a brand. She didn't disappear either. She existed in the in-between. That choice alone was powerful. By not over-explaining, she allowed space for other women to project their own experiences, struggles, and hopes onto her journey. She made motherhood feel expansive rather than prescriptive. There was no single right way to do it. Just her way. The image that spoke louder than words. There is something timeless about a mother holding her child. Artists have painted it for centuries. Poets have written about it. Entire civilizations have revered it. Yet when Rihanna held her baby, it felt both ancient and entirely modern. The contrast was striking: a woman who has defined trends, broken rules, and reshaped industries now engaged in the most primal human act of all, nurturing life. No performance could ever compete with that. The image didn't need explanation. It carried its own gravity. Cultural impact beyond headlines. This moment didn't just live in entertainment news. It spilled into conversations about womanhood, balance, and self-definition. For some, it was affirmation that success and motherhood are not mutually exclusive. For others, it was a reminder that women are allowed to evolve, that who you were at 25 doesn't have to define who you are at 35. And for many, it was simply comforting. In a time of uncertainty, seeing joy, real, grounded joy, felt like a gift. Motherhood and identity, not a loss, but an expansion. One of the most damaging narratives surrounding motherhood is the idea that women lose themselves. Rihanna quietly dismantled that myth. She didn't shrink. She didn't fade. She expanded. Motherhood didn't erase her identity, it added depth to it. She remained creative, visionary, bold. But now, there was another layer, a love that reshaped priorities and reframed success. This wasn't about giving something up. It was about gaining something immeasurable. Why we're still talking about it? Long after the initial wave of reactions, people continue to reference that golden moment. Not because it was flashy, but because it was honest. Honesty lingers. In a culture obsessed with spectacle, sincerity stands out. It anchors us. It stays. Rihanna and her baby became a quiet symbol of what matters when everything else feels overwhelming. And maybe that's why we can't stop thinking about it. A legacy written in love. Years from now, when timelines refresh and trends fade, this moment will remain. Not as gossip. Not as controversy. But as warmth. A reminder that even the most extraordinary lives are built on ordinary, beautiful moments of love. Rihanna's legacy has always been about impact, but this chapter is different. It's not measured in charts or sales, but in hearts touched and souls comforted. And that might be her most powerful influence yet. The golden moment that keeps giving. Some moments entertain us. Others change us. This one did something rare: it softened us. It reminded us that beneath the fame, beneath the image, beneath the noise, we are all human beings yearning for connection. A mother. A child. A love that needs no explanation. That is why the world paused. That is why hearts melted. That is why we're still reading, still feeling, still holding on to that golden moment: motherhood without performance. Celebrity motherhood is often filtered through extremes, either highly curated perfection or relentless scrutiny. Rihanna chose neither. She didn't overshare. She didn't disappear. She simply lived. That choice alone was revolutionary. By refusing to turn motherhood into content, she allowed it to remain sacred. Private enough to be real, public enough to inspire. It sent an unspoken message to women everywhere: you don't owe anyone an explanation for how you mother, how you change, or how you grow. A new kind of strength. Rihanna has always symbolized strength, but motherhood revealed a deeper version of it. This wasn't the strength of commanding a stage or breaking industry barriers. It was quieter. More resilient. The strength to slow down. The strength to nurture. The strength to protect something fragile in a world that consumes everything. It was strength rooted in love rather than dominance. And people felt that shift. The power of softness in a hard world. There is a misconception that softness is weakness. Rihanna's golden moment shattered that illusion. Softness is what allows connection. Softness is what sustains life. Softness is what heals. In holding her baby, Rihanna didn't diminish her power, she expanded it. She showed that femininity, tenderness, and vulnerability are not opposites of strength. They are its foundation. Representation that matters. For many women, especially women of color, this moment carried additional weight. It was representation without performance. Motherhood without stereotype. Success without sacrifice of self. It showed that women don't have to choose between ambition and love, between independence and nurturing. They can be all of it. And seeing someone as influential as Rihanna embody that balance mattered more than words ever could. A cultural reset. This wasn't just a celebrity moment, it was a cultural pause. People stopped scrolling. They lingered. They felt. In an age of fast consumption, this moment demanded slowness. It invited reflection. It reminded us that the most meaningful chapters of life aren't always the loudest ones. Sometimes they unfold quietly, in the arms of someone you love. What this moment tells us about legacy. Rihanna's legacy has always been impressive: records sold, barriers broken, industries reshaped. But this chapter introduced a different kind of legacy. One rooted in humanity. Long after trends fade and headlines change,